Hello friends, this is Team Super Simplified and today we are going to discuss Economic Survey 2016 Volume 1 Chapter 6. The title of the chapter is Bounties for the Well-Off. So before starting the chapter, let's understand the title of the chapter. What do we mean by these bounties? The bounties here mean the various explicit and implicit government subsidies which the government provides for the welfare of poor and needy in the society. And the economic survey in this chapter is providing various surprising facts, and it proves that there are a lot of bounties, a lot of subsidies which are getting diverted, and instead of uplifting the poor they are reaching the well off, the people who don't need them, right? So hence the title Bounties for the Well Off. And if you talk about the magnitude of such diversion, then it is of the order of 1 lakh crore rupees. Okay, this is the diversion which is happening. The bounties, the subsidies meant for the poor are actually reaching the rich or the middle class, the well off, who don't need these subsidies. Okay, and this is not only causing injustice to the needy and poor, but it is also burning a hole in government's pocket. And we will have a sector wise look at the statistics and study the specific impact in those sectors. Okay, so let's get started. Before starting, let's give you some background on these bounties. To put things in perspective, government spends nearly 4.2% of the GDP in subsidizing various commodities and services, and this 4.2% of GDP is very high. Okay, what are the key benefit areas which are addressed by these subsidies? There are many, but we will discuss some of them which are important. Okay, first one is small saving schemes. What are small saving schemes? For example, your post office schemes, right? Post office saving scheme. You have time deposit schemes also in post office, right? And then you have various subsidies, direct and indirect, in the sector of cooking gas, railways, power, aviation turbine fuel, gold, kerosene. Okay, we will see in the coming slides one by one how the diversion is happening in all these sectors. Okay, and what is happening is a number of these policies provide benefit to the well-off instead of the poor, and it is of the order of 1 lakh crore rupees, which we have already seen. So let's move to the next slide. This slide actually shows you the quantum of diversion which is happening in all these sectors. You just have a look. We are going to discuss this in detail anyhow in the coming slides. This is only to give you a rough idea, right? So let's move to the next slide. So this is the first sector. We'll discuss small savings. What are small savings first of all? So small savings are for the small saver, right? It was initially created to mobilize savings by encouraging small earners like daily wage laborer or a street vendor or small farmer, to encourage them to save in banks by offering a deposit rate which is higher than the market rate. And these saving schemes comprise of the post office deposits, PPF, Public Provident Fund. Actually, don't get confused between PPF and EPF, Employee Provident Fund. Employee Provident Fund is different. Okay, this is meant for the salaried employees. If you are a salaried employee, then 12% of your basic salary plus DA, dearness allowance, this is applicable only for government employees. Okay, so 12% of this amount actually is deducted from your salary and deposited with the PF office, which works under Ministry of Labor. And an equivalent contribution 12% is also contributed by your employer. You can increase your share, but employer keeps it at 12%. So basically 24% effectively of your basic NDA is deposited with the PF office. So this is employee provident fund, right? So this you will get, this amount which is deposited every month from your salary will be given to you at the age of 60 years when you retire. Okay, and then there are some tax-free bonds issued by the public sector companies like National Highway Authority of India or National Thermal Power Corporation. They issue these bonds to finance infrastructure. Okay, and they are also considered as small saving schemes. So these are the small saving schemes. But what are the issues here? The issues are, first of all, the tax treatment of these instruments. So the way tax is imposed on these instruments is itself a problem. So what is that? First of all, what is tax treatment? See, if you save anywhere, whatever your saving instrument is, any one of these or anything else apart from these also, there are three aspects or three stages in that saving. First one is your contribution. So you will save, first of all, right? Contribution every month or every year you will deposit some amount, that is the contribution. Then there is interest which is getting accrued on that. So the body which is taking your contribution is giving you interest. Okay, that is interest part. And the third stage is withdrawal, right? So whenever the scheme matures, you have to go and withdraw your amount. So how are these stages taxed? That is what is known as tax treatment. So if you talk about public provident fund, for example, then contribution is exempted from tax, interest is also exempted from tax, and your withdrawal is also exempted from tax, right? So this is EEE, and economic survey is telling that ideal case should be EET. So you exempt the contribution, you exempt the interest, but you tax the withdrawal. and that is why government imposed EET rule on EPF. They imposed tax on withdrawal, but there were severe protests in various parts of the country, especially in Bangalore. Recently there was a very severe protest where there were some violent activities also, and then government has put this proposal on hold. Another issue is that these schemes are not so small schemes. So basically they were designed for the small saver, but people who are getting benefited out of these, especially the second and the third category, are the people who are well off. So that is what economic survey is saying, that if you leave behind post office deposits, then your PPF, tax free bonds and other schemes which are meant for poor are actually giving benefit to the well off. So there is a scope of rationalization there. Then there is another problem. Monetary transmission is not happening because of these schemes, since they have fixed interest rates, right? So what is monetary transmission? First of all, so you must be aware that RBI has various instruments available with it, like repo rate, reverse repo rate, MSF, right? So with the help of these instruments, it controls the money supply in the country. For example, if it increases the repo rate, then money becomes costlier for the bank, and bank also increases its interest rate. Then people will not be taking more loans, right? So the money supply in the economy will reduce. And if it decreases the repo rate, then interest rate of the bank reduces. More and more people will go and take loans from the bank. The money supply in the economy increases, right? And this is the way RBI controls the money supply in the economy. But that is not true with these kind of saving instruments. Why? Because they have fixed deposit rates, right? So monetary transmission is not happening. That is, whenever RBI is playing with these instruments, the effect is not coming on these saving schemes. Okay, now this slide shows the characteristics of various saving schemes. For example, if you see here, then you have post office saving account and post office saving time deposit. Tax treatment is TTT. So poor people are paying tax at all the three stages, but your well off who are availing this PPF, 15-year PPF, are actually exempted on all the three stages. So this is the anomaly which economic survey is talking about, right? And it is saying that there is a scope of rationalization of these schemes. So ideally, what should be the tax treatment for any scheme? It should be EET, exempt, exempt and tax, right? Okay, so let's come to the second sector, gold. So how is gold subsidized? So economic survey is telling that gold is mostly consumed by the rich. That is quite obvious. Top 20% in the society consume 80% of the gold. Okay, still it is taxed very low, from 1 to 1.6%, even after including state and center taxes. Whereas normal goods, if you talk about, then they are taxed around 26%. So see the difference, right? So this is what implicit subsidy is like, right? If you are not taxing it properly, means you are giving indirect subsidy. That is how economic survey takes it. For example, central excise on gold is 0%, and recently it was increased, and there were a lot of protests. If you go to any jeweler shop, then you will find the shutter closed and there is a huge banner hanging in front of the shop that rollback excise. Okay, so 1% excise was getting imposed here, as compared to 12.5% for normal commodities. So there is hardly any tax on gold. So economic survey says that this is a kind of implicit subsidy you are giving to the rich, because only rich are consuming 80% of the gold, right? Hence gold is implicitly subsidized, and 98% of the subsidy goes to the well off and 2% to the bottom 30% of the poor. Okay, so that is why there is a scope of tax rationalization in the sector of gold, and that is what the government did, but it faced severe criticism. Okay, now let's come to the railways. See, in railways also there are implicit subsidies for the well off. So first of all, what is the basis of distinguishing between poor and rich? So economic survey says that people traveling in AC, first class, second class and sleeper are considered to be rich for this analysis, and people traveling in unreserved are considered poor, right? And according to computation of economic survey, implicit subsidy rate for these classes is something like this. Implicit subsidy rate for poor is 69%, okay, which is good, but implicit subsidy rate for well off is 34%, and these people don't need this 34%, right? So again, in railways there's a scope of price rationalization, but again railways are very difficult to touch. The prices in the railways are very difficult to touch because they are very sensitive, and there may be a political fallout also. That is why governments are very cautious when they tweak with these prices. Now let's come to the LPG sector. So economic survey says that there are 6.19 lakh LPG consumers receive a subsidy of rupees 238.51 per cylinder. This is January 2016 figure, and subsidy rate is 36%. So we are getting a discount of 36% on each cylinder. But 91% of the LPG's connections are with well off. So all these subsidies are going where? They are benefiting the people who are better off. Hence only 9%, remaining 9% subsidy goes to needy and deserving population. So again, in this sector there is a scope of subsidy rationalization. Then coming to electricity. So computation of subsidy in electricity sector is also a little difficult like railways, because the tariff vary on the level of consumption, right? If you consume more electricity, then after a particular threshold you have to pay more per unit, right? So for the sake of simplicity, what economic survey has done is they have done a survey in Tamil Nadu and Delhi, and based on those figures they are proposing something. What they are telling is, So they have calculated implicit subsidy rate. What is subsidy rate? It is subsidy per unit divided by the cost of supplying per unit. So for example, the actual cost of supply of electricity is 100 rupees and you are getting it for 40 rupees. Then there is a 60% subsidy. Okay, so that is a subsidy rate. Subsidy rate for poor is 49% and that for the rich is 32%. But effectively better off gain more because 84% of the electricity is consumed by them. So again, even in electricity sector there is a scope of price rationalization, right? Even the discoms are strained distribution companies. There was a scheme recently over there for this purpose, right? Now let's come to the next sector, which is aviation turbine fuel, the fuel which is used in aviation industry for the aircrafts. ATF is actually taxed at 20%. And if you talk about diesel and petrol, that there is a tax of 55% for diesel and 61% for petroleum. So if you compare with ATF, then there is a difference of 30% if you take average of these two figures, right? And this ATF is used in air travel and air travel is used by the well off, right? So hence this is also an implicit subsidy which is reaching the people who are better off. Let's come to the kerosene. So kerosene is basically meant for poor and subsidy is 9.16 per liter and there's a subsidy rate of 38%. But economic survey says that 50% of the kerosene under PDS is actually consumed by the well off, right? So again this subsidy is reaching the people who are better off. So these were the 7 sectors where we have discussed the various subsidy leakages which are happening right now, and the subsidies which are meant for poor are actually flowing to the people who are better off and they don't need them, right? So there is a scope of rationalization of the schemes. So now let's have a look at this table. So this table summarizes everything whatever we have read till now. So here you see the share of consumption between rich and poor. So what percentage of that commodity or service is utilized by the rich and what percentage is used by the poor. If you talk about kerosene, 49% is used by the rich and 51% by the poor, right? So we are getting a subsidy of 38% here for the rich and poor are also getting same. The subsidy rate is same for both rich and poor in this case, and this is the effective subsidy rate. And we have the absolute value of subsidy also in the last column. This is calculated by economic survey, right? And you can have a look at these figures. And one more thing here, you need not remember all these figures, right? You can go through them and you can understand the consumption pattern, you can understand the subsidies which are available to rich and poor, and you can understand what is the absolute impact on these sectors. But what is to be remembered is only the bottom line and the concept which we have discussed here, the philosophy part of this entire topic, because this will be useful in mains answer writing and also in your interview. For example, if someone asks you that there was a recent imposition of 1% excise duty on gold which was severely criticized, so how do you justify that, or is that justifiable? Then you can quote that example that 80% of the gold is actually consumed by the top 20% of the population, right? So this is not a regressive measure, whereas other commodities of daily use are taxed at effectively 26% and gold was being excised at only 1%. So how do you compare these figures, right? So that is how you can you can try to justify that particular move of the government, right? So that is the importance of economic survey. What is important here is the philosophy part of it, why certain policies are getting shaped in a particular direction, right? There are a lot of facts and figures, but you need not remember all of the numbers. Only the relevant figures are to be remembered, which can be easily remembered and which can be quoted relevantly. Right, now let's come to the conclusion. So what is the conclusion here? The conclusion is subsidies are the positive intervention by the government and they act as a life support system for the poor, and hence they are required, right, till we are working on a long-term solution on the problems which are being addressed by the subsidies. But the problem is that a fair amount of these government interventions are actually flowing to the better off in the society and these people don't need them, right? So there is a diversion of these subsidies. And if you talk about the implicit and explicit subsidies, then there is a diversion of 1 lakh crore rupees, and this we have calculated by merely taking 6 commodities and small saving schemes, right? So this represents a substantial leakage in the government's purse, and this is also an opportunity foregone to help the truly deserving, right? So this amount can be used somewhere in some other development scheme or some other subsidies, or maybe the subsidy amount may be increased. Hence there is a scope of subsidy rationalization or tax regime rationalization in various sectors which we have studied now. So that's all guys, that's all from my side. If you like this video, please do like, comment, subscribe and share. And a lot of energy and time is invested in making these videos, so we request you to kindly take a moment out and please do subscribe to the channel so that you get instant notifications whenever we upload a video. And if you have any topic in mind which you would like us to cover, then please let us know. And one more thing, these slides can also be downloaded. You can go through the link which is given in the description section, right? So thank you, goodbye for now, see you soon.